So guys, we have a few questions that, we thought you would find interesting that we wanted to start with, and then if we got some time at the end, we'll turn the mic over to a couple of you guys to ask some questions. So first, Bill, let's introduce yourself.
I'm Bill.
There we go.
Now, if this table falls, I'm in a pretty good place to get hurt.
It's on camera too. All right, first one we got. What was the difference in training in the off season as opposed to in season, and when exactly did you make that transition from it's off season to in season and it's in season to off season?
Well, I think we have to go back to the yesteryear, and you guys can remember when I actually played. 1998 was the last year I was in a uniform, Detroit Tigers. And training has come an awful long way. I think everybody is in agreement with that. But I do remember, I can tell a little story. Yesterday I was actually down at Camden Yards in the visiting clubhouse. Under Armour asked me to go down there and talk to some of their young players. Dee Gordon, Noah Syndergaard, Travis d'Arnaud, Byron Buxton, and Francisco Lindor were the 5 players that were down there. All young studs at the big league level, so they certainly understand what training's all about. I looked at them, 2 of them played in the World Series, so I wasn't expecting them to be doing much at this point in time, but I asked the other ones, I said, when do you get back at it? And Travis d'Arnaud just jumped up and said, well, I just caught an awful lot of games during the postseason and the World Series. I won't pick up a baseball for a long time. But that doesn't mean that I won't do the things that I need to do to stay in shape to keep getting after it. Dee Gordon just won a National League batting title. Said he's going to start up probably in 2 weeks from now to get ready for spring training, where he was talking about twice a day in the weight room with a baseball activity sandwiched in between. So when you're talking about that kind of routine for those guys to get ready, spring training, for some point in time when I was early in my career, spring training was designed to maybe get yourself ready for the season. And I think nowadays everybody understands you get yourself ready for the spring training in the off season, so there is no ease into it. There's hit the ground running and get after it. Once the season starts for us in the big leagues, 162 games in 180 days, doesn't leave you a whole lot of time to do anything other than your baseball activity and your normal baseball activity. And in some cases, August, September, it's okay to take a couple steps backwards and do as little as possible to make sure you're ready for 705. So I think there's definitely 2 types of season. The off season nowadays, I think you got to get after it. You got to be ready by game 1. If you're a kid going into high school wanting to make a team, there's no second day to make that first impression. I think the coach is ready to see you get after it right away. Certainly at the college level, there's nothing different about that. There's such a rat race out there for competition for certain jobs that you owe it to yourself, if you're a young player, to be ready day 1 of any sport you're trying out for. So baseball is the one we're going to talk about now, but it doesn't limit itself to that. So any sport, make sure you're in your best physical shape you can be in to hit the ground running.
All right. Next one. What is the difference between playing in pain and an injury, in your opinion?
Pain and injury. I think we all have aches and pains when we play something. I think there's enough of us weekend warriors out there and the older people sitting in the crowd that would agree to that. Some of the younger ones, I think this is a great opportunity to use the 2 words that I like using when you're talking about youth sports and parents of those in youth sports. The 2 words I like using is common sense. Injury and playing with a little nagging pain, I think, are very, very closely related. And I think when we're in that situation, if we're a parent of a youngster that says, you know what, my arm's a little tired today, and he's had a little bit of workload on him, I don't think there's any reason for that youngster to go out there and throw the baseball around. Certainly not to pitch in any given day with those kind of things. So I would have to actually kind of let the experts handle that, but I would just guard very carefully with the parents and the youth athlete. If there's something going on there, there might be something going on there. And you need to have that looked at and checked out, because I think it's always going to be the better case to err on the safe side. This game's going to get fast enough and serious enough the higher we climb the ladder, and then sometimes we can ignore some aches and pains and we can go out there and get after it because we have to. But if we're 10, 11, and 12 years old, I don't think there's a have to that comes into this picture right now. Listen to what the athlete has to say and use common sense, and I would say err on the side of safety.
All right, fair enough. What were the keys? There were a few of them for having a long, healthy, productive big league career.
Oh, so you thought my brother was going to show up in a long, healthy, productive career. I tell you what, and this might be a better way to explain that second answer a little bit better. I spent my fair share of time on the disabled list when I played. I played for 12 years in the big leagues, but definitely spent my fair share of time on the disabled list. And a lot of it was probably due to the fact that I said I could play with it, and I didn't do myself any favor or any service. And that's kind of when you get into that area of the have to. If I was the 24th or 25th man on a roster, and there's only 25 men on the roster, and I had a little nagging hamstring injury, and I didn't think that I had the luxury of being able to go to my manager and say, hey, I need a day or two here, my ham's a little tight. That wouldn't have gone over very well. So I think that's the best way to look at the example of having to do something compared to being able to push it off. Now, certainly there were bigger and better players in the game of baseball than I, and if they would have went to their manager and said, I need a day or two off, the manager said, take a day or two off, I'll see you in day 3. I didn't have that luxury. So I think just staying active, listening to the people that certainly know more than I about how to stay healthy, and getting after it is what it's about. But there will come a point in time in everybody's career, and I think you know this as well, when your elbow wasn't feeling necessarily right, you didn't have the luxury.
Yeah.
I'm saying, you know what, I'm going to shut it down for a week. So there's certain times when you have to do things, but once again, in youth sports, that's not it.
All right, next we got, with the amount of arm injuries, today, they seemingly are, increasing every year. Do you have any ideas, beliefs as to what's causing them?
I listen to a lot of smart people. I can still go back to, we talk about the athlete bigger, stronger, and faster nowadays than ever before. Correct? We've all heard that. And for the most part, I agree with it. But when I look back at James Alvin Palmer and I watch him throw 315 innings, 298 innings, 288 innings, 275 innings, a staff of 4 starters, not 5, 4, all won 20 games with the Orioles, I'm not so sure we can actually make that claim across the board. Now, are guys throwing harder than ever before? Yes, they are. And I think there's one part of me that thinks the body, the human body, wasn't designed to throw a baseball 98 miles an hour 100 times in any said given outing. There's part of me that thinks that. But the 200 inning limit, the 100 pitch mark that a lot of people are wanting to look at and putting a lot of emphasis on that, I do go back to those yesteryear guys of Palmer and Gibson and Nolan Ryan. And yes, in the sport, when we get to the highest level, you can classify us as freaks of some kind. And I get that. But my dad had an interesting saying about going out to play baseball and to strengthen your arm. He said to strengthen your arm, you play catch, because that's what you do in the game. And we played catch a lot. With all my injuries that I can cite and talk about the different injuries and the time that I spent on the DL, the arm wasn't a problem. certainly Junior playing 162 games for 417 years straight, his arm was never a problem. And there was something to be said for Senior, let's go play catch, and let's throw. Let's develop arm strength by playing catch. Dad was not in any way, shape, or form one of these newfangled people. Certainly would not enjoy the conversation of anything sabermetric related. But there was something to his methods. I remember when he would go out, and Junior, who obviously is the Iron Man of all time in baseball, and how Junior got ready to play the game, Dad was the master with the fungo. He would hit 5 fungos straight at Junior on his ground balls. Junior would bend over and throw them in. Senior would go, which meant 1 step to the left and 1 step to the right, and he would hit them. And then after a few of those would happen, he would go, which meant 2 to the left, 2 to the right, and then he'd yell, now we're going to get after it. So he firmly believed that warming up in a baseball sense, Junior fielding ground balls was a baseball activity, and how you got into that was doing those things. So that probably took the stronghold on Junior for his first 10 years that he played, was routines very similar to that. And then Junior himself started getting into more of the I guess, off the field training things to keep himself ready. But there was something to be said for Dad's ways on to get ready to play baseball. You play baseball. There was a reason in batting practice at the big league level, you took 8 swings your first round, and you didn't try to hit every ball out of the ballpark. You got loose in your first 8 swings. Your next 5, you're putting a little bit more effort into it. A round of 5 would follow that, where you're thinking about game situations. A round of 5 would follow that. But it was to get ready to play baseball. Dad said you play baseball. So once again, there was something to be said for his method of his madness. So the arm injuries that are going on right now, I think I can answer that by saying everybody's enamored with that radar gun right now. These kids are traveling around, and wherever they travel, there's a radar gun in front of them. And is the easy way out, I think in some scouting situations, is to say, well, this kid just threw 94. Instead of saying, okay, well, that kid threw 88, and I watch him pitch 7 innings, and he knows how to pitch. We can work with this guy. But that radar gun is there, and I think all these showcase events and all these tournaments that you go to when there's a radar gun, I think it's a human nature that the kid says, I'm going to light it up. And sometimes they don't actually play catch, like my dad would have said to do, to get ready for such a thing. So I think it's an epidemic. It's crazy because it hits everybody. It doesn't discriminate. I can see people with good mechanics blow out. I see people with bad mechanics not necessarily blow out. It's one of those things. But I think it goes back to maybe the big man up there didn't want us throwing 100 for 100 pitches, and then he said, give an outing.
All right, we got
that was a whole lot of rambling, nothing.
You got back around to it.
Just.
All right, so I got 3 more for you.
I made 2 leave. Let me just 3, if you count that one. Anybody else?
All right, we got 3 more. Lots of places to do lessons, strength and conditioning, camps, things like that. What is your advice to parents looking into private instruction, looking into different types of camps, that sort of thing?
Do a little research, number 1, and it never hurts to use the common sense, number 2. Ask your athlete, number 3, do you like the person that you just talked to, because that's important. We were talking out in the hallway a little bit. Our role as instructors, teachers, coaches, whatever you want to call us, is to take someone from here and take them to here. And if I get someone that's here, I got to take them to here. If I'm lucky enough to find this, I got to take them higher. We have the ability to do that with something simple and true. We really do. I can relate back to anything my dad told me when I was 7, 8, or 9 years old, hanging around the Asheville, North Carolina park in AA, when he might have been talking to Doug DeSensei, Mike Flanagan, or Rich Dower, or Al Bumbry. I can bring those things back, and I guarantee I can do my job like that. Sometimes all the gadgets in the world don't replace something very simple. The game is played still, no matter what anybody says about how this game's changed. You throw it better, you hit it better, and you catch it better, you're still better. And that will never change. And I think those things come true. Beware of things that go crazy. I've had coaches of a 10-year-old team tell me when their team played up at 11U, he goes, you got to come help me work on the slide step. Pitcher slide step. I said, why? Well, they get them on first, they're stealing second, they're stealing third, and then they score on something cheap. I go, well, how'd they get on first? And he goes, well, we walked a few of them and made some errors. Then we ain't got to worry about the slide step. Let's stop walking people and let's catch the ball like we're supposed to. I ain't got to worry about the slide step. Don't have to. So we complicate the things, and I think if you can see somebody and they're doing simple, fundamental things, especially when you're dealing with younger kids, I can make a 10-year-old better in 5 minutes, I'll guarantee it, by working on ground balls and how to catch the ground ball, nothing more. And he's going to be better in a 5-minute period. Because I know I'm going to say the right thing and it's going to be able to stick with him where he can take that, go out on the field and get better there too. And then I become a teacher, not a teller, because he's going to believe in me. So look for the teachers, not the tellers.
All right, we got lots of guys out there want to be the best on their varsity team, want to play in college, maybe professionally after that. What is your best piece or pieces of advice?
I'd say keep working. It's interesting because no matter where we go, there's a select few. Parents, number one, let's be a little realistic of what's going on. Because I just don't have parents tell me their kid's going to play in the big leagues. You know, my kid's going to be the next Mike Trout. So let's go back to the big leagues first. 1% of the drafted players, I believe is accurate, get to the big leagues. Something along those lines. So now think about all the players that have ever played high school, ever played college ball, that don't get drafted. But the 1% of the drafted guys end up getting to the big leagues. And Mike Trout is basically one of one. When you're thinking about the best player in the game for 4 years in a row, he's arguably the best that baseball has to offer. So when a parent tells me that one right away, my kid's going to be the next Mike Trout. Stop it. Just stop that conversation as we go. But now, with that said, once again, our conversation, parents and players, there needs to be a point in time where we become realistic with ourselves, very objective within ourselves. And I hope the day doesn't come where baseball stops you before you get to your dream of playing in the big leagues, if that's what you want to do. With that said, we have to keep working every single day. And I think one of the best pieces of advice that my dad ever gave me when I was 17, I was going to go away to Bluefield, West Virginia and play. And he said, take care of yourself. Now, part of that was pick your spots when you're going to go out and have a beer fest, because I know you're going to. Pick your spots. But that wasn't it. To take care of yourself was when we go into a certain situation. And I asked those 5 guys yesterday that are big league studs, were you always the best player on your team growing up? All 5 of them said no. All 5 of them said no. Now, was there a little bit of humbleness going on? Because Noah Syndergaard, 6'7", 245, throwing a billion. I'm thinking when he was 12, he was probably the best one. I'm just thinking. He said no, though. He said he wasn't that athletic, growing up. So wherever you go, you're going to see people in this game. Bigger, stronger, faster, can do things bigger and better than you can. But if you truly worry about yourself and not worry about that person, and this is one of my dad's best life lessons as well. Played 5.5 years in the big leagues. I get released by the Orioles, I go to Texas, I'm a non-rostered player. I'm fighting for a utility job in Texas. There's two other guys fighting for the same job. There's 3 for 1. 3 for 1 going into it. I'm sitting next to a utility guy at home plate in the game, in the spring training game. He strikes out. This guy went, yeah. I looked at him. I said, what? He struck out. I saw that. Now, I went through 5.5 years of minor leagues, 5.5 years with the Orioles. That's 11 years. I went total recall when I was 17, and Dad said, take care of yourself. This guy wanted to succeed because of his failure, and guaranteed when I was up there wanted me to fail too. So the best true advice, I think, for anybody that's going into anything, in the classroom, there's going to be somebody sitting down at the end of the row that's smarter than you and got a better grade. And if you spend more time worried about that, you're not doing yourself a service. So I think if we want to go out and we want to succeed and we want to get after it and play, the only thing that we can do is have control of ourselves. And what Dad said 11 years ago hit dead true. I'd like to say I took it to heart, because after the first 5.5 years in Baltimore, every other opportunity that I was given in that non-rostered chance in any spring training situation to make a club, I made a club. And I'd like to think after that opening day I could sit in my locker and say I made it because I made it. I didn't make it because other guys failed around me. So I think when you're moving forward in your athletic careers, worry about yourself, because you're never going to be the best of the best. There's always going to be somebody a little bit better. But if you actually get after it and work real hard, there's an opportunity for you to do it on your own.
Real quick, when we were talking percentages there, he was talking on the pro end. On the high school and college end, nationwide, 2.7% of high school seniors that are graduating end up playing any level of college baseball. So whether that's Division I, Division II, Division III, junior college, NAIA, so we're talking pro ball, but I mean the numbers are pretty scarce, high school to college too. So some guys don't give playing at a small college enough credit. I mean it's a very difficult thing to do. Last thing, your dad was obviously famous for coining perfect practice, making perfect. Talk a little bit about that.
Love it. Please footnote me on these moving forward. If anybody ever says practice makes perfect, you've got to intervene, because it doesn't. And Dad was real clear on that. Guy can go out there and take 150 ground balls in a day, and he's practicing. But if he's not doing it right, he's not doing anything right. Because if he's taking 150 ground balls like a moron, when ground ball 151 comes to him in the game, he's going to take that like a moron too. And Dad, when he did his start with at you, one to your left, one to your right, there was a purpose, and you did not do it in a lazy manner. There wasn't too many jokes that my father liked to use on the baseball field. And how to enjoy the game of baseball in Dad's mind was do it right, get better, and it's always going to be more enjoyable. But he was real big on that perfect practice makes perfect. Because if you practice like a moron, you're going to play like a moron, you can guarantee it. In fact, if you do it 150 times, it's going to be harder to get out of it when you finally try to do it right. There's very few games, and once again, at the big league level, certain freaks of nature are there. And there were players that I played against in the big leagues that could turn the switch on, but they were far and few between that could be able to do that. You're so much better served to go out there and say, if you're going to practice, go ahead and practice it the right way, or practice perfectly, or don't waste your time doing it, because you're not going to get better if you're not doing it the right way. Man, that was strong.
That was good. So I think we have time. We got time for 2 or 3.
I got time to talk to anybody.
All right. So anybody, Josh, what do you got, man?
Yeah, Bill, you talked a little bit about the difference in playing through pain for MLB guys versus kids. You talked a little bit about pitch counts for MLB. What about that for kids? Kind of what's your philosophy or Ripken baseball philosophy for pitch counts?
We raise a few eyebrows at our tournaments because we don't put an innings limit on at our tournaments. And the reason why we don't, we think it's up to the coach. We're not the governing body of your 12 guys and your 12 guys' family and the coach. I don't know what those kids did the week prior. You know, whether they did anything. So the way the travel ball works and some of the financial models that are out there with the amount of money to play in tournaments, we are actually putting the onus on the parents of the kids to say, wait a minute, I paid the same freight as that dude. And my kid does pitch. And there's going to be a way where he's going to be worked into that rotation. I think, for the most part, we've been very, very pleased with how things have gone in that situation. Because it's so true. If we go to a tournament, they go to a weekend tournament where, you know, they might have a 6 innings limit pitch on the kid at that tournament. The man might have thrown 6 innings on Wednesday. And we don't know that. So it's very hard for us to be the governing body on that. Once again, it's the common sense factor that goes into it. It's not rocket science. It really isn't. You know, before Jay left, we were talking that guys, right now, what's Greinke going to get a year coming up, 30 a year? He's going to get $1 million a start. Here's a guy who's going to get $1 million a start. And the Dodgers are going to say, your first few outings during the year, you're going to throw about 100. And yet we might have a 10-year-old out there that the parent or the coach will throw him 120 pitches. That's 10. Something wrong with that dynamic. And I actually think they baby the big league pitchers too much. I do. I think that if there used to be a way that you could go out there and throw. And people could throw a lot. Now, are those days gone? Okay, I'll buy into that. But there's no way in the world a 10-year-old kid should be subjected to 120 pitches, 100 pitches, 80 pitches during the course of the time. And one last thing on the pitching thing that I would like to see, I would hate to see a coach take a kid, pitch him 2 innings, play him at shortstop, innings 3, 4, 5, and then close the game out in the 6th because you can. I'd rather see the kid throw 4 innings pitch while he's in that routine throwing and doing those things, because there's the play catch time in between innings, a couple ground balls hit to him during the game. And I see that in tournament teams where they want to save their big gun, right? So they score a bunch of runs in the first 2 innings, and they start getting back into it. And my word for them, if I see that in my place, I will say, sir, if you want the trophy for winning this tournament, I'll give it to you now. I don't care. I'll make you a new trophy that says you're the best 10-year-old team on this planet. But you shouldn't do those things to win. And that's where we lose common sense, because there are coaches out there that want to win the championship of the 10U planet in such a manner that they don't care about the 10-year-old that they're running out there. And in some cases, that 10-year-old's his son, which is another travesty in its own. But it's common sense. You know, if a kid goes out there and he's a bigger kid and he's just throwing and they're popping it up, yeah, you can probably go a little bit longer. There's a smaller kid that's grinding through bases loaded. You know, obviously his innings should be limited and say, yeah, that's enough work today. But I can't jump into any coach's head and try to put the common sense thought in there, but it should be there.
Hey, so I want to set the record straight here.
Are you researching my?
No, the lady that left,
Oh, okay.
she says, sorry, I only had a sitter till 9. That's part of the night, and I had to go. Questions were getting good. So, I don't think he bored her. So, we got one more question. Let's hear it.
Yes, sir, right next to him.
I'll give you a plug here. My son's gone to your camp the past 2 years, and one of the best parts is the fundamentals that are taught at your camp. My son plays travel ball. My concern that I see is there's so many games and so little teaching. I think that's across the board. How do you suggest we get back to maybe not playing 60 or 70 games a year, back to playing 20 or 30 and teaching the game the Ripken way, the right way, and allowing these kids to learn the game the right way, rather than just putting them in all these tournaments.
And how old your boy?
He's 8.
8.
He's playing 9. He's playing 9.
Right, but
9U, but it's,
here's the crazy part, and this is not just the sport of baseball. It's all sports. It's such a rat race. I hear the basketball guys talking about it when they're going into college, because that's all they do is play AAU basketball. And when the guy plays in one tournament, the coach of the other two teams watch him play and say, we're going out to Vegas next week. I think we got a plane flight for him too. Is that okay? Sure. So there's no coaching going on. And we're not immune from that here. So your boy's 8 playing in the 9U league. If he goes down to Myrtle Beach and he has a good day at our tournament destination down there, there will be a coach who'll come up and say, who's your father? And he'll talk to you, especially if he can pitch. Because they're doing it in that sport as well. It is such a rat race, this specialized baseball world, where if you play spring baseball and the kid wants to play basketball in the fall or soccer in the fall, and the coach says, wait a minute, we're going to have some fall ball too. Okay, well, I'll give you that. Winter rolls around, you want to play basketball. Wait a minute, we're going to be at the indoor facility. And it really, to make the next year's spring team, this would probably be a good opportunity for you to show up in the indoor place. So now you're sitting here and this vicious cycle doesn't end. Hopefully, with you and yours, you need to maintain and understand the different seasons in the different sports. In order to play baseball, in order to play infield, soccer and basketball are two great sports to play. Because soccer, number one, you can't use your hands unless you're the goalie. And you don't want to be the goalie because you give up the goods. It was your fault. You want to be out there playing. In order to play shortstop or second baseman in the big leagues, you have to have good feet. Period. What better way to work on your feet than playing a sport like soccer? Winter is basketball, your conditioning, your short spurts that you do. Baseball, we're not running very far. My dad says the farthest you run in baseball is 360 feet. And if you hit it far enough, you get the jog that. But they're sprints. They're short, quick sprints. When you're looking at an outfielder running to left center field, when he's playing center and getting a gapper, it's from standstill to go. It's first step movement. So soccer and basketball to me are the two greatest sports to join forces with baseball. And when your boy, if he has a passion for it, and he's 9, and let's say he's 10, he's 11, he's 12, still should be playing multiple sports until he's the one that says, hey, Dad, I really want to do that. I think I got something going right here. I want to do that. But it should never be like the dad saying, no, let's do this. Because the multiple sports helps. And I think also, dealing in this place here, we don't want to come for injuries. But if a kid plays baseball year-round, that's just too much throwing. I mean, I talked earlier about, I think, the big league pitchers. Big league pitchers don't throw for a period of time. But when we play the spring baseball into the fall baseball, and then we do the winter training in an indoor facility, we're nonstop playing catch. We're nonstop throwing. Let's give that a break. If we went from baseball to soccer, where we're just running around kicking the ball and having a good time doing it, into basketball, working on short spurts, and the skill level that comes with that, your hand-eye coordination, it can only help 100% full circle when the kid chooses to specialize in one sport. And if he specializes in baseball after he goes through high school and plays 3 sports, because I think that's what a kid should do if he's in high school. He should be a part of that high school experience. It's only going to make him better as an overall athlete. And I think we're seeing more and more athletes come into the game of baseball, and that's a good thing. So the better athlete you are, the better chance you have at baseball.
Well, I agree 100%, and I'm a huge multi-sport person. My son plays soccer, he plays basketball, and I fought
See how
back.
I did that?
I've fought back, that temptation. My concern as any parent is like, I don't want them to fall behind, but I'm such a believer. I heard your brother talk about playing basketball, like everything you said.
But here's the deal. Your kid will not fall behind in the sport. Your kid may fall behind in the judgment of the coach of that one said sport. And that coach is then, therefore, a jackass.
Well, because you talk about these guys who make it, they're good at some other sport too. I mean, I think it's out there that the best baseball players were also really good at something else.
I would actually argue if you went around the big leagues, big league players, Major League Baseball players, could enter in more sports at the highest level than any other sport could come back into baseball. You know, you got guys that they could blend into an NBA game, I'll guarantee it. But the difference maker is in the baseball world. I mean, we saw Michael Jordan, he's the best athlete, best basketball player in the world. Dude couldn't hit. Long. But you can take some boys and put them in an NBA game, and I'll guarantee it wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb. Put somebody in the batter's box, facing one Noah Syndergaard, that basketball player, football player is going to look like a sore thumb. I got one more, yes ma'am, because you didn't leave. Those other two, they had no chance, ever. If Tim's ever asked me to come back, I'll remember.
I'm Jim Buster from the Harbor County Clinic, and some of my friends, boys play baseball in Harbor County, and in order for them to play travel, they also have to play rec, and their sons are overplaying, but that's the rule. How can they possibly change out of that political?
It's way outside of my realm of thinking. I think where there's a will, there's a way. You get enough people together, say we're just not going to do that. That's how singular teams get formed in the first place. And rules and stipulations, I've never quite understood if the governing body's big enough and strong enough. But I think in Harford County, I think you've got enough ways around that. There's enough avenues that you can take not to have to do some of those things. And in some regards, yes, it might get a little bit more pricey than what it is, but it's easier enough to get a group of guys together and say, we're just going to play in tournaments. And my youngest played 1 year at 9. I did the team. I saw none of the other 11-year-old or 11 kids play baseball before. They were all Jack's teammates in either basketball or soccer. Like parents got together. Now, they had a pretty decent resource in me to say, this is what I'm thinking about doing. There are 5 tournaments that are going to be played at my complex in Aberdeen. These are the 5 we're playing. There's one in March. I'm not playing in that. I have no desire to sit at my complex, watch 9-year-olds freeze, and have me freeze March 30th, so that one's out. If any of you parents want to do that, you're crazy. Do it on your own. I talked to the parents. I said, so are you guys in for that? 3-game minimum. That's 15 games. I'll probably arrange a couple practice games where we'll get to about 20. Is everybody in? And everybody said yes. I said, I'll get back to you on the numbers. Now, I had the luxury of doing 5 tournaments for the price of 4 because my name's on the damn list. So I saved them a few bucks there. But if there's a will, there's a way. There's places to do that kind of stuff, and you can get out of the thumbprint of the nasty overlords and do your own thing. You might be better off for that.
All right, guys.
Okay.
So
Sorry about the joke.
that's all we got with Bill. He's got to hit the road. We got Steve and Leslie coming up next. So thanks, man.
Cheers!